Numbers. Sergio saw a wide cross-section of humanity from his coffee cart. There were the corporate types with expensive cologne and slick-back hair. And hadn't they ever seen a movie? The guys with Italian suits and slick-back hair were almost always arrogant douchebags who got themselves killed off in the second act. You'd think that even if they didn't have a conscience, they'd at least have a sense of self-preservation. They barked their orders, never with a please or a thank you, and even if they weren't on the phone, they'd pretend to be too busy to make small talk with Sergio. There were the library moms with young kids who always smiled and remembered his name, which the guys in Italian suits never did. They might not actually be on their way to or from the library. It might be a park or an art gallery, but hungry for caffeine and adult conversation, they were always nice. So Sergio made it a point to listen to an interesting audiobook or podcast every day, so he had something non-creepy that they could talk about. "Hey, Mrs. Lopez, I just learned that almost all pigeons in Honolulu are either white or partially white because most of them are descended from when couples get married on the beach and release the doves at the ceremony." "Thank you, Sergio. I needed that. Anything else?" Oh, this is a good one. Did you know that because Emily Dickinson always wrote in the same meter, any of her poems can be set to the theme from Gilligan's Island? I'm not sure I believe you.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip.
Because I would not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. Oh, bless you, you've saved my sanity. Anything for you, Mrs. L. It took Sergio a year or two of working the same street corner to realize that there were other people in the background who weren't as easy to see, but once he did see them, he realized that they were part of the foundation of the neighborhood. There was the lady he identified to himself as Miss Grimsby. She was a young woman who sat on one of the benches nearby reading a book for an hour or so every day, regardless of the weather. In cold weather, she'd be bundled up like she was on an Arctic expedition. During the summer, she'd wear a nice sundress. On extremely rainy days, she wore a full yellow oilcloth rain suit with a big yellow hat, like a fisherman in a fish sticks commercial. She never said a word to anybody. If anyone tried to talk to her, she would stare them down with an icy glare, whether they were library moms, corporate douchebags trying to hit on her, or teenage boys who were clearly looking for trouble. She would pull a bookmark from the back cover of whatever book she was reading, mark her spot, and then stare at them until they backed away. And then there was Mr. Numbers. He might have been homeless, but it was hard to tell. The guy was anywhere from 40 to 85 years old. His clothes were worn out but clean, which you could say about the man himself. Life had clearly not been gentle with him. Sergio called him Mr. Numbers because he always carried a notepad and pencil with him. It seemed like it was a different notepad each day, and he mumbled constantly to himself, writing a series of numbers down in his pad. He walked slowly around, carefully examining the world around him. From time to time, he'd stop, stare very intently at something, a trash can, a crack in the sidewalk, a lamppost, a library mom, and quickly write down a burst of numbers before looking up and continuing on his way. It was bad business to give coffee away for free, but Sergio had always believed strongly in the old saying that God loves drunks, children, and idiots. As far as he was concerned, that included the touched, so he had taken to giving Mr. Numbers a smile and a cup of coffee every morning. This morning, Mr. Numbers seemed especially focused. He would normally take a brief break from his number writing to say good morning to Sergio and to thank him for his coffee, but today he jumped from one string of numbers to the next, barely pausing for breath. "Good morning," Sergio said to him as he poured a cup of coffee. 2500382, Mr. Numbers replied, nodding in a distracted way while gazing intently at a fire hydrant and scribbling furiously. "Are you doing okay?" Sergio asked as he added the tiniest splash of cream to the man's coffee. It had taken weeks to figure out exactly how Mr. Numbers liked his coffee, but by paying close attention to subtle clues and facial expressions, he'd learned to make it very dark, the color of burnt toast, with just the tiniest bit of milk. "Do you need anything?" 6182778, Mr. Numbers said, shaking his head and staring at a pigeon, which stared back at him in a bemused sort of way, and then quickly wrote the numbers down in his notes. Okay, well, let me know if I can do anything for you, Sergio said. Mr. Numbers nodded and then turned his attention to a large concrete planter full of bright yellow flowers. 86752827, he said to himself, furiously writing down in his notebook. Sergio was a child of the 80s and responded automatically without thinking. You mean 8675309, he corrected. Mr. Numbers nodded his thanks and hurriedly erased his previous entry. 8675309, he muttered as he jotted down the amended set of numbers. There was the sound of a tiny chime, like the smallest bell in the world had rung. Sergio and Mr. Numbers watched as the flowers changed color, from bright yellow to deep blue. Mr. Numbers stared at the planter for 10 long seconds, then turned to Sergio, frowning fiercely. Don't, he said, grimly, holding up a finger. Just don't. He quickly erased the series of numbers in his notebook again, tearing a small hole in one of the pages in his hurry. 8675827, he said as he rewrote the original numbers. Sergio watched in confused silence as the flowers in the planter returned to their original color. Mr. Numbers looked Sergio in the eye, then grasped his coffee, nodded in gratitude, and strode quickly away, focusing on a passing ambulance. 3924112, he muttered, and then turned a corner and disappeared from sight. After literally minutes of searching, I discovered that there really aren't any good recipes for a cocktail that involve the word numbers, or numerals, or digits. So I decided, hey, let's go look in my liquor rack. And as you can see, I really need to make use of what I already have. So this is a recipe that I'm calling Running the Numbers. Today, we're going to use a cocktail shaker. I missed it last week when we didn't. So we're also going to use a muddler. And we're going to start with a 1.5 to 2 inch slice of cucumber. And we're going to muddle that completely until it turns to the same consistency as applesauce. Now, as you notice, I can't really do that on the kitchen table without simulating an earthquake, so I'm doing the best I can freehand. You're better off doing this on your kitchen counter. Anyway, we're completely mushing the cucumber. That's to break up the cell walls, to free up some flavonoids from the cucumber. Okay. Now, we are adding 2 ounces of chili lime rum. This is Captain Morgan's. And there we go. Da-da-da. And, you know, I like to really... Oh, yeah. That's nice. Anyway. So, we're going to dry shake this. That means to shake it without any ice, because some of the volatile compounds from the cucumber are not water soluble, but they are alcohol soluble. So by shaking it around before we add the ice, which is going to melt and make water, which you want to dilute your drink a little bit. Anyway, so we've invested the rum with a little bit of cucumberness. Now we're going to add an entire 6-ounce mini can of pineapple juice. And that's it. Okay, now we're going to shake again. Shake, 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 shake. You can see my plant behind me, my Chinese money plant, shaking in sympathy. And we're going to add some fresh ice to a Collins glass. And just in case there's some floating chunks of cucumber. We're going to strain it a second time. There's a strainer in the lid of the cocktail shaker, but, double straining it doesn't hurt. And look at that. It has a beautiful golden color from the pineapple juice, but also a little bit from the cucumber. And it also has a nice foamy head. Only a little made it through the double straining, but there's a beautiful head there. I think this is better drunk with a straw. A little bit at a time, and this shoots the drink to the back of your mouth. It's extra refreshing. You can taste the cucumber a little. You can taste the pineapple, of course. And then the chili lime rum. It sets a mood. And if nothing else, we've all been in a mood lately.